someone introduces me in a new friend circle of like the Bitcoin guy, and someone's like, oh, like, but Bitcoin is bad because of X, Y, Z, and I just simply ask him, oh, like why is XYZ bad? And then it's like usually like one headline, and then you ask one deeper question there, and they're completely gone. Like they don't even have a clue about what you're saying. It's like if someone, for example, brings up the environment argument, you ask them, oh, like what is difficulty adjustment? And they never heard difficulty adjustment. So like they clearly never really did any research work. Otherwise, they would have known what the difficulty adjustment in the Bitcoin mining is if they're so concerned about Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, they're just regurgitating the snippet talking points rather than actually thinking. Because the moment you challenge them to think beyond the one point they memorized, it crumbles. So again, if people are willing to actually think for a moment and ask those hard questions and be fine with coming to a conclusion that maybe is different than what they had initially, I think the logical conclusion is I should probably own some Bitcoin.
100%. And it's also, I think, it's a cheat code for Bitcoiners. If you are in a debate style, ask the opposite questions, because most likely he didn't do his homework. I've really, like, it's really rare. There are instances where I came across someone that like is against Bitcoin that knew really a lot about it, also about the technical aspect of it, usually like software developers, and then they don't know about the economic side of it, and like why does like the Austrian economic side of it, and like why does it make sense from that side. But it is interesting of like ask a few good questions, and they will see themselves. And I think that's probably also a good way to actually orange pill people. Ask questions, not to like, oh, I gotcha, but like ask them actual questions of how they look at things. And maybe, just maybe, there is a process starting in the head of saying like, oh, I've never looked at that way. Oh, I should look deeper into that. Just like maybe you can spark something, because I think debates are useless, because like both have a very like both go in with a standpoint, and both go out a little bit angrier with the same standpoint. Like that's for me usually a debate.
Yeah, generally they're going to be further entrenched. So most time, if you're going to engage in a debate, you're doing so less for the person you're debating and more so for the audience who will be listening to it. Hopefully as you engage people, the questions, as you mentioned, that you ask are it's less a gotcha. And at least when I ask questions, I'm not trying to get somebody. I'm trying to actually be there as a primer. Like if you like, all right, I see this. They haven't turned on the engine of their mind for a long time. Let's go ahead and we're going to prime it for a minute, and I'm going to give it a couple pulls, starting a lawnmower or something like that. Like those are the questions I'm trying to ask, is like, maybe I can get your brain to start running by using this method of forcing you to think. And again, if you can get past their talking points of, let's go back to inflation. If you can get past their talking points of, well, inflation, instead of 2%, it should be 3%. If you just ask another question as, why does inflation exist? What causes inflation? Something like that. Most people have never stopped to think about even that simple question. Why does inflation exist? And even just someone, again, putting that rock in their shoe where they think, well, I've never stopped to consider. Or again, like even the most basic question of what is money? Like I never thought about what is money until I stumbled into Bitcoin. And that's someone who works in money. But most people don't think about those things. So a lot of it really is those first principles. Like again, going back, like if you're arguing with someone, like if you're arguing with someone about about morality, again, like if you're, let's say you're atheist and deist, and the question of, well, there's no way I would serve your God because he's evil. Like, well, in your worldview, evil can't exist, good can't exist, right and wrong do not exist. So what is your basis for defining evil in the vacuum of your worldview? And it's asking that further question to say, well, do you have a backing for that? And again, I think that we could go there as well with Bitcoin by asking those simple questions, not as gotchas, but truly as in hopes of forcing them to ask those better questions. Again, not just asking questions, but asking the right ones, and actually asking them genuinely, um, where you're willing to have your mind changed. Again, everyone thinks they're right. No one walks around thinking they're wrong. Everyone thinks they're right. It's just the people who are willing to say, okay, if I find out I'm wrong, I really want to be right. So the moment I realize I'm wrong, I'm going to change my mind, and then I'll think I'm right again. So hopefully holding convictions, some of them loosely, some of them tightly. Like I have a lot of things that I believe that I hold very loosely because I really don't have much of a basis for believing them. And I'm willing to have my mind change about those. And the other things I hold tightly. And hopefully, again, most people who believe that, the US dollar or fiat currencies are the best or the only way, don't hold those beliefs very tightly. It's very loose. They just never been challenged. They never even realized that they hold that belief per se. It was just the default. Of course, the US dollar is money. Why? What is money? They've never even had someone come in and try to shake that belief out of them at all. So if you ask it rightly, I found that orange pilling people is actually not that tough because you're trying to shake out a belief that they hold that they've never. It was the default, and it wasn't something that they didn't really have a strong conviction in. Again, if you're asking it insincerely and as a gotcha, then it will end up being more of a debate style where, as you mentioned a minute ago, typically debates will just further entrench someone to their own beliefs because it's a survival mechanism. So trying to engage those conversations in good faith is usually going to be the better way to go, even for the other party.
It's a good one. I found the article. It was actually Beyonce.
Okay, that does make sense. So Beyonce is the source of inflation. I could see that. It's either Beyonce or it's money printing. It's a toss up. Which one is the cause actually?
Yeah, they're saying basically that because she started her world tour in Sweden, and there's like hotels and restaurants such high in demand that the inflation rate in Sweden went up for that month. And yeah, it maybe is a factor. Like maybe Beyonce is just a big factor. But that's just crazy. It's a crazy headline for me to even read out loud.
Like, is that proposing that trickles globally to like actual inflationary issues? Like, obviously, I mean, if you have, I don't know, the cost of a resort during good months at a beach is going to be higher than hurricane season at the beach. Is that the source of global inflation, that more people want to go to the beach during non-hurricane months? No, it's just supply and demand playing itself out, not a total seismic shift in cost of all goods. Like that has to come down to the numerator and denominator, not simply supply and demand.
I just it's interesting. I just read the article a little bit. They are backpedaling a lot from the headline. when you read the article, they're like, yeah, she probably added 0.2% to the rise of 9.7%, and 0.3% is also added by the hotels themselves. But it's just funny that people would even write that headline. It's like, yeah, she and it's not like, I can understand like if she's in in one area, like if there's like a smaller city and there's like a big star coming, or like there's like the Olympia happening, or like the song contest is happening in a city, like if there's some major event happening in a city, yes, this can definitely rise inflation for that very specific period. But whole of Sweden, even adding like something like 0.2% of the inflation like that, then in itself, it's already like very astonishing for me.
Yeah, it's. I think everyone's looking for an scapegoat.
Absolutely, yeah. I've heard, because you brought it up with learning and wrong, and like I've came to know that, like I'm more and more of the belief that learning is kind of discovering that you're wrong on a regular basis. It's that understanding that like, okay, my assumptions were wrong, or there's something new. And especially as I mean, I'm very young with 27, but like especially as I'm getting a little bit older, I noticed that I have more and more assumptions about life, which is actually kind of hard, because to learn something new, it's really great if you don't have assumptions, because learning that you're wrong is a hard thing to do. And so I have more and more empathy, and honestly, with the people that are really against Bitcoin, and they that haven't looked down, haven't looked deeper, because I've seen more and more that the longer you're gone in life, the more assumptions you make about life and about all of things. And because you're not that and you're doing good in life, you think you are great and you're right all the time. And like learning is the constant discovery that you're wrong on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's true. Truth itself can be offensive enough, because if you're wrong and you encounter truth, then you're directly being told that, hey, you are wrong and you need to change your mind. And I don't think that we need to add our own additional jabs in there to make it more offensive. Maybe slightly occasionally to wake someone up. There are people, again, who truth itself will not cause them to recognize the wrong. So that's where maybe using some additional harsh tactics can play in. But again, I think most people don't even know they're wrong about something. They don't even know they don't know they have a belief. Like most people don't think they even hold a belief of what money is. It's just a programmed in, like, what do you mean what is money? So again, if we approach that conversation I don't know, with a good heart, wanting to actually educate them and um, help them out versus prove them wrong, most people, I think, will be willing to hear you out, because you're not necessarily offending something deep inside of them. It's the other people who already have these deep convictions that will be more offended, because you are stepping on toes now. And that's where you have to tread lightly. Like, how's that person going to react to just being presented with information versus maybe not attacking them, but coming at them more directly, trying to get them to listen, or softer approach, relationally. There's people in my life that it's been, again, I had lunch with an advisor in town recently. We've talked several times about Bitcoin, and it's more this relationship that's allowing a foot in the door to have these trusted conversations. It's not the first time or the third time, it's over time. So yeah, understanding how people will take information, but also recognizing, again, that truth itself can be offensive enough, and maybe check your attitude before you consider adding additional offense on top of truth itself, for someone to hear they're wrong, plus for you to rub it in, may just further entrench themselves.
I love that. Truth itself can be offensive enough. Be kind about the truth. That's really cool. You also said in the beginning that like the initial reaction to Bitcoin is no longer crazy from the clients. Like they like have like more normal reactions to it. And you said, I think this was before we started recording, that you see that the convictions around Bitcoin, around your clients, is continue to grow. How do you see the Bitcoin conception from the clients that actually already get Bitcoin, and they see it growing over time, and they get deeper into the weeds of it?
Well, August is a really busy month for us. So we do like we meet with all of our clients proactively every February and August. So February and August are absolute chaos. So August meetings was a lot of people talking through like what's going on with your portfolio and life and all these factors. And then part of that is going to be talking about Bitcoin and, the question of, do you think the halving cycle is going to persist? What's going to happen with interest rates and the macroeconomic environment, and if or how will that impact Bitcoin? And it's been interesting to see people that 6 months, 2 years, whatever ago did not know anything about Bitcoin they didn't have an opinion on it, or if it was an opinion, it was based off of like 2015 FUD, who are now saying like, well, I want to make sure that my Bitcoin is, I want to keep holding my Bitcoin whether or not we have a 4-year halving cycle, because thematically nothing has changed. And when people bring those things up, it's like, wow, okay, you understand it. It went from I want to own this asset because I think it's going to go up a lot in the short term, to recognizing, again, thematically, there is something broken. And I believe Bitcoin is a solution. And I don't want to let go of that solution because the issues still exist. So that's been amazing to witness. Just having clients, I've had clients bring up, well, Jim, I guess as I think about it further, if when I look at Bitcoin, if it makes logical sense, I guess something like the Federal Reserve doesn't make sense. And someone coming to that conclusion without me pointing them to that is fun to watch. Or again, recognizing that, well, goodness, if I've recognized these things, these attributes about Bitcoin, the trickle effect on other assets is X, Y, and Z. People starting to connect those dots on their own is pretty cool. So yeah, it's, I don't know, if you can help people think through Bitcoin, again, asking the right questions and presenting it on a first principles basis, and you encourage them to actually think on their own regularly, then these other peripheral points should start lining up. Again, so I would generally speak, I would argue against trying to orange pill someone just based off of number go up. Or if you take that approach, that better only be the gateway drug to ultimately help them understand it. Again, otherwise they'll never come to these other conclusions. If the moment the number stops going up temporarily, they're going to feel burned and they're going to go to the other thing that the number goes up, or number goes up more in a short season. And that's where, you have people like, oh, I was a Bitcoiner, but now I'm into this other crypto because it's going up more. They never understood Bitcoin. They were never a Bitcoiner. They just happened to own some Bitcoin.
I love that. They were never a Bitcoiner, but they just happened to be have some Bitcoin. One more question I have, kind of from the bonds and the TradFi that we talked about before. How do you actually think those bonds and TradFi products will develop in a Bitcoin world? I'm asking mostly because when I look at my personal financial situation, it's like, yeah, I have Bitcoin, I own my own company, and maybe down the line I want to own my own home, and that's it. I'm like the bonds are so uninteresting for me that I don't even look into them. Stocks might be something down the road if Bitcoin is doing a little bit less. I come from the stock world. I picked stock before. I really enjoy it. It's like a game for me of what stocks is kind of doing good in the next 5 to 10 years, because I'm anyways researching all the time where technology goes. So I'm kind of, it's kind of a fun game for me to see I see where the technology is going. Let's bet on the best horse that can have something in that technology frame, and it's a lot of fun for me. It's kind of like a speculation and a fun part of having 10-20% of the portfolio there, which I will maybe do once Bitcoin matures a little bit more. But bonds, it's like who is buying them?
Yeah, that's when you shift the denominator to being something besides fiat and you move that over to Bitcoin, or you start asking questions differently from alternative investment assets. If I don't own Bitcoin, what do I own? And what is the premise behind why I own it? If it's, Jim, let's say Rob and I have $100 today and I need that $100 tomorrow. And I live here in the US. Maybe some Bitcoin maxis will get mad at me for saying this, but if I let's say that $100 today, if it's $99 tomorrow, I will be devastated because I can't buy or do whatever I needed for that $100. I would be foolish to put that into Bitcoin because tomorrow maybe it's worth 99, maybe it's worth 105. I don't know, but it's not worth that risk. If I need it in 20 years, it would be foolish to park that money under my mattress in dollars. So when you think about portfolio construction and you reframe what is your denominator, hopefully I will force you to better consider each intended use of each dollar, where it goes: Bitcoin, bonds, stocks, real estate, cash, whatever. But you better have a good reason. And that also goes into spending. Like if we think that in a Bitcoin standard that most things would actually be deflationary, hopefully that will cause people to give pause before they just blow money.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.